Some consulting firms are getting 300 to 400% more leads by switching to a content-first strategy. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you the key content marketing strategies specifically for consulting firms that seems to be working in 2025. This is all stuff that has worked for our software engineering consulting firm, which is generating more consultancy leads than we could ever fill, and over $500,000 a year just from passive automations that we run from our content. I'll get into what works, what doesn't, and the real examples and mistakes that we made along the way so that you don't have to trip up over those same spots. Hopefully it will save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches when you're growing your consulting business. Content is one of the best ways to build visibility, trust, and authority online. And today I'm going to show you how to absolutely smash those inbound leads. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Tom. I'm a content marketing coach. I help experts translate that expertise into content online that can drive their revenue streams and keep them earning while they sleep. If that's the kind of advice that you're looking for, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell as well so that you never miss an upload. And if you wouldn't be so kind as to go and leave this one a like, I would really appreciate it, as it will help the video go out to as many people as possible. So please leave a thumbs up if you do enjoy this video. Cheers. So in this section, we're going to get into what consulting firms do wrong when starting with a content strategy and the mistakes that they're making. So mistake number one is thinking that content is just posting randomly on social media sites or YouTube without a strategy and thinking that just showing up is what you got to do. Unfortunately, that's never going to work. Quite frankly, it's boring. Content is about storytelling. As silly as that sounds, every single piece of content that you consume or you share tells a story about your business, you, or the products or services that you are trying to ship. The information that you are sharing should be engaging and informative, and most important, as a consultancy, valuable. Sharing your value early is a great way to build trust with your potential clients. Mistake number two is using content only for awareness and not to generate and capture leads. Ask yourself, what is the point of your content? Loads of organizations think that you just have to be posting content in order to be visible. But what are you even creating content for in the first place? It's to end up with more leads and growth, isn't it? So every time you post a piece of content, you should be thinking about what are the business benefits of this piece of content and what is it doing for my audience in order to get my audience where I want them. And last but not least, mistake number three, trying to do too much, spreading yourself too thin across all of the platforms and burning yourself out. Just being everywhere for discoverability isn't going to work if you don't have a strong strategy and a reason for being there. So what are the key components of a strong content marketing strategy? First up is audience definition and segmentation. You need to know who you are speaking to and what problems they have. It sounds simple, but if you don't nail this, you are going to be sending out the wrong content to the wrong people using the wrong language, and it's not going to generate any leads. In many cases, you are trying to influence different portions of your audience in order to sell a certain product or a service. So for example, in a consulting firm for software engineering, we might be targeting developers, and we might also have targets that fit more into a team lead business focus role. So you need to have a strong definition of each of those segments so that you can use the appropriate language in order to communicate with those pieces of your audience effectively, meaning you can give them the content that they want at the time they want it without being spammed with loads of other stuff. Next up is case studies and social proof. Really important as a consultancy firm. Real stories from your past clients that show the transformation that you can help achieve. I was reading a case study the other day that was detailing how a consultancy group shifted their entire content marketing strategy into only client transformations, and they achieved a 160% increase on their customer engagement with those pieces of content, as well as a 50% increase on their click-through rate from those pieces of content too. When you're operating as a consultancy, everything is on the transformation for the client. Rather than how you get them there is all about the outcome. I heard a talk the other day, and you may well have heard this phrase, but it was the first time that I'd heard it. Absolutely no one in the world needs a drill. Nobody. What people need is a hole. And that's all they care about. So your content strategy should focus on the outcomes of your services, not the services themselves. Next up, we need our lead magnets and our funnel design. Downloadable tools, assessments, or guides that will capture leads from our content and add people to our mailing list so that we can continue to communicate with them. I talk about this in most videos, so I won't go into loads of detail here, but there's a really good example in this video here, which will detail more about that process. And yeah, it's a good video, so go watch that one. And finally, we need to think about your formats and how you distribute. Blog posts, white papers, videos, webinars, infographics. Those are your pieces of content that you will then publish to social media or email newsletters or video platforms. You should use a mix of long form content and short form content so that you can appeal to different parts of your audience that may have a different preference for the way they consume your content. Your formats may vary depending on what your consultancy is offering. So for our software consultancy, we use a mix of videos, webinars, and podcasts for our B2C communications. And for our B2B communications, we use more white papers, case studies, and infographics. Different formats offer different ways to be able to communicate your value to your potential customers. Videos are a great way to describe something topical or explain a fix to a problem, whereas white papers are a great way to communicate that kind of case study style communication that we were talking about earlier. So in this section of the video, I've pulled out some research from some case studies and examples that I found online of other large consultancy groups like McKinsey. I'll make sure to include the links to these case studies if you want to read more about it, and they'll be in the description below. So for inside out development, they used a 4-step strategy, starting with the set principles for great content being bite-sized, simple, compelling, and unique. They focused on 3 types of content: slide decks, videos, and articles. That's what we were talking about earlier with our formats. Choose which ones you want to use. And they became content sponges, so the material was all created internally and published online. Marketers at the company excavate content from other colleagues and departments. And finally, they promote and support their content through their 4 main channels, which are email, social, website, and lead gen forms. Now for the important bit, after implementing their strategy, they got 388% more leads with higher click-through and lower opt-out rates. So you can see where their strategy would be encouraging trust within the audience that they already have. So rather than just going out in an outbound sense and just messaging people whether they might be interested in a particular product or a service, sharing the value up front, sharing content, sharing your information, sharing your expertise as a consultancy will lead to that trust much quicker, and so then can lead people into your inbound marketing funnels to then continue your communication with them over email. The next case study that I read up on is more similar to what I've been doing with my software engineering consultancy, which is focused on thought leadership. So big players like Deloitte, McKinsey, BCG use thought leadership and customized content for different segments. Their content marketing consists of creating and sharing valuable content in the form of blog posts, white papers, and videos to establish thought leadership, engage the audience, and drive lead generation. This all just showcases their expertise and provides value to the audience upfront while building trust. McKinsey in particular develops personalized content tailored to specific industries and client segments. That's what we were saying before when I used the example of developers and team leads. They have different wants and different needs, so you need to communicate with them effectively and separately. This approach allows them to address the unique challenges and needs of their target audience effectively. This is a really powerful way of gathering leads because it means that you are gathering more data and information on the person that you are communicating with in order to eventually achieve a sale. In this section, I'm going to provide some actionable steps that you can use to get started on a content strategy for your consulting firm. So let's get started. Step number 1, audit your existing content. Find gaps, which formats work, which formats don't, and plan to keep up with your consistency. Don't overstretch yourself though. Step number 2, define signature content pieces or methodologies that are unique to your firm. Whether that's deeper dive white papers or case studies, or short form videos that are just dropping gems on your audience. Step number 3, build a content calendar with a defined cadence with formats that you can sustain. Step number 4, create 1 or 2 lead magnets that are really talking to your audience's pain points. Step number 5, promote your content via the channels we discussed earlier in the video and reuse some of that content so that you don't burn yourself out. For instance, using clips from podcasts or talks that might be online already. And finally, step 6, measure and iterate. This is all a learning process and we will continually learn while the strategy is taking place. So think about what content is bringing in leads, where retention is best, and what type of formats are performing the best. Once you've measured that stuff, then you can readjust your strategy and improve and keep improving. To wrap up the video, here are some of the mistakes to avoid so that you can avoid some of the headaches that some of us may have gone through in their past. Avoid chasing vanity metrics, things like subscriber count, follower count. As a business, it's all about how engaged your audience is, not how big it is. Don't ignore audience feedback or skip that testing period. Test your packaging for these pieces of content, whether that's titles, headlines, thumbnails, language you use, the tone that you use. Test them against each other and figure out what works for you. Be patient. Content strategy does take time. 1, because building an organic, engaged audience around a profile takes time. 2, platforms like YouTube and other content sites take time to learn what the content you are sharing is really about and who might be interested in it. So that takes time too. So don't worry if the first 2 videos don't perform as well as you thought that they might. It might just take time for the algorithm to recognize the value that you can really provide to your audience and who that audience is. And finally, keep your voice and expertise visible. Don't just hide behind generic content. Don't be afraid to share the thoughts and opinions that you have, even if they do cut across the grain. Trust me, no one in the world needs another mouthpiece for ChatGPT to be sharing its thoughts. So what does all this mean? Content marketing for consulting firms works. Trust and understanding is built through these content strategies. And bringing leads into you is far less soul destroying than your typical outbound marketing strategies. If you'd like a visual representation of an example content strategy roadmap that you can use for your consulting business, I've put together a free diagram which shows you where those touch points are on the customer journey for a consulting firm. You can get that, there's a link in the description below. It basically shows you where each of those touch points are, and you can apply your thoughts and your content into each of those touch points in order to work people down from your content to a sale. So if you're looking to build your content strategy for your consulting firm, you can hit the link in the description below and I'll make sure that that gets sent straight to your inbox. Content is all about credibility, vital for any consulting firm. If you found this video helpful and you want more stuff like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well if you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I will see you in the next one. Cheers then.